Hello, English learners, and welcome to 𝗟cie_𝘁. My name's Erica, and I'm here with Marco. Marco, hurry up!
I'm coming!
Hurry up, Marco, we've got a lesson.
Okay, I'm here. What did I miss?
The lesson.
All right, sorry about that. We have a great lesson for you today. We have an elementary lesson.
That's right, an elementary lesson about being in a rush and about giving directions when you're in a car.
Exactly.
We're going to listen to two friends who are getting in a car and they're getting ready to go somewhere and they're in a big hurry. So let's hurry up and listen to the dialogue.
Hurry up, get in.
I'm in, let's go.
Okay, make a left here. No, wait, I meant make a right. Come on, speed up.
Jeez, what's the rush?
Don't worry about it, just drive. Oh no, the light is about to change. Step on it.
Are you nuts? I'm not going to run a red light.
Whatever, just turn right here. The freeway will be packed at this hour. Let's take a side street. Go on. Get out of our way. Move!
What's your problem? Jeez, having a fit is not going to help.
Here, I know a shortcut. Just go down here, and we'll cut through Ashburn Heights. Let's go! Watch out for that lady.
I'm going as fast as I can.
Yes, we made it. 5:58, just before the library closes.
You're such a geek.
So they were in a hurry and it was all just to get to the library.
Well, maybe he was late returning a book or something.
That's a bit dramatic just for returning a book.
Yeah.
All right, why don't we look at our language takeaway for today?
Language takeaway.
Okay, on today's language takeaway, we have 5 words for you today, 5 really important and useful words that we found in our dialogue. So let's take a look at the first one. Step on it.
Step on it.
Step on it.
Step on it.
So what does it mean when I tell you to step on it?
Drive faster.
Drive faster, right? Step on it.
Exactly. You might also say speed up.
Speed up, yes.
Speed up.
That's exactly it. Our second word, speed up.
Also means go faster.
Go faster. And what about the opposite?
You might say slow down.
Slow down.
Yeah.
Okay, so speed up and slow down.
So our third word for today is having a fit.
Having a fit.
Having a fit.
Having a fit.
Well, this is a funny phrase, and I think listening to a few examples of this phrase might help us understand its meaning a little bit better.
Example 1.
Jeez, you don't need to have a fit. Nothing is going to happen if we're 5 minutes late.
Example 2. My boss is going to have a fit if I don't finish this on time. Example 3.
Oh, I almost had a fit when my boss told me I had to work this weekend.
Okay, great examples. So, Erica, why don't you tell me, what does it mean when you have a fit?
It means you get really angry and you can't control your emotions. So maybe you start screaming and maybe some steam comes out of your ears.
Okay, that's having a fit.
Exactly.
Excellent. Okay, let's take a look at our next word now. Cut through.
Cut through.
Cut through.
Cut through.
When you cut through something, it means you just
Go through.
go through.
Yeah, quite simple. It gives you the idea that you go through something quickly.
Quickly. So I can say, let's cut through the park.
Yep. Or let's cut through the backyard.
Okay, go through. And this takes us to our last word for today, shortcut.
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 This is a really common word and not many people know about it.
Yeah, you're right. It's two simple words that when you fit them together, the meaning changes. It's a great example of this real English we talk about.
And it means to take a shorter way somewhere.
Exactly. So if I take a shortcut, I go the short way.
Okay, so going back just a little bit to cut through. If I cut through the park, that's basically a shortcut.
Exactly.
All right, now
Okay.
it's clear.
Okay.
Now it's time to listen to our dialogue again, but this time it's going to be slower, so then we can understand all these words that we just talked about.
Welcome to World Pod English Video. Today's story is called Lost in the City, a story full of English phrases and lessons that help you speak confidently when you drive or give directions. It was a bright Saturday morning. I had just received my driver's license and felt proud, a little nervous, but excited. My best friend Mia called me and said, "Let's go explore downtown." I said, "Sure, I'll drive." It sounded easy, but I had no idea what adventure was waiting for us. As soon as I got into the car, I turned the key and smiled. "Here we go," I said to myself. I pulled out of the driveway carefully. "Okay," Mia said, "make a left at the end of the street." That was my first test. "Make a left," I repeated, trying to sound confident, but somehow I turned right. Mia looked at me and laughed. "You just went the wrong way." "Oops, my bad," I said. That was my first mistake of the day. But you know, mistakes are part of learning, especially in driving and in English. When you make a mistake, don't panic. Just correct it and move on. You can say, "Oops, my bad," or "Sorry, my mistake." Both are very common in real conversations. The road ahead was quiet. I started feeling relaxed, almost too relaxed. Then Mia shouted, "Hurry up! The light's about to turn red!" I stepped on it. The car jumped forward a little too fast. "Whoa, calm down," she said, laughing. That's another good expression. When someone's rushing or panicking, you can say, "Calm down." It's friendly and natural. At the next turn, I slowed down and asked, "Where do I go now?" Mia looked at the GPS and said, "Make a U-turn." A U-turn means turning your car completely around to go in the opposite direction, like a letter U. But here's a useful tip. In English, we often use make a instead of do a when giving directions. You say make a left, make a right, make a U-turn, not do a left. English can be strange, but that's what makes it interesting. As we drove, the city got busier. Cars, buses, people, everyone was moving fast. "Wow," I said, "this place is packed." Packed means full, very crowded. You can say, "The stadium was packed," or "The bus was packed this morning." Suddenly, a car stopped in front of me. "Step on it," Mia shouted. "What?" I asked. "Step on it means go faster," she said, laughing. That's one of the most useful driving phrases. When someone says step on it, they mean press the gas pedal hard, go faster. We were laughing, learning, and enjoying the drive. And I thought to myself, every moment can teach you English if you just listen to life carefully. Even a day in the car can become a classroom. As we reached the city center, I felt proud. I had made mistakes, but I had also learned. Learning English is just like driving. It's not about being perfect. It's about moving forward, even when you take the wrong turn. That afternoon, the sun was high and the streets were shining. I opened the car window and felt the warm wind touch my face. I said, "This feels like freedom." She smiled and replied, "Yes, if we don't get lost again." We were in the heart of the city now. Cars were honking, people were walking fast, and streetlights were everywhere. Suddenly, Mia said, "Turn right here." I quickly turned, but she shouted, "No, not here, the next one." I laughed nervously and said, "You have to give directions earlier." This was a great moment to learn something useful. When giving directions, timing and clarity matter. In English, you can say, turn right at the next street, or take the second left. These short and simple sentences help drivers understand better. After turning the wrong way again, we ended up on a one-way street. Oh no, I whispered. We can't go back. A taxi driver behind us honked loudly. Move! Move! I could feel the pressure building. Mia said, don't have a fit. That made me smile. Have a fit means to become angry or lose control. It's a funny and useful phrase. You can say, my boss will have a fit if I'm late, or mom will have a fit if she sees this mess. I took a deep breath. Okay, no more panic, I said to myself. I drove carefully, looking for a way out. Let's cut through this small road, Mia suggested. Cut through means to go through a shorter or faster path, like a shortcut. So I followed her idea. We turned into a narrow lane full of little shops and colorful cafes. People were sitting outside, drinking coffee, smiling, chatting. This place is beautiful, I said. Sometimes when you take a wrong turn, you find the right view. That's life, and that's language learning too. Mia looked around and said, maybe we should park for a bit. So I slowed down and said, good idea. Slow down is another everyday phrase that means reduce your speed, not only for driving, but in life. If someone is moving too fast, you can say, hey, slow down, take it easy. We parked beside a cafe with a sign that said, life's too short to rush. We laughed. It was the perfect message for the day. Inside, I ordered 2 iced coffees. The waiter smiled and said, coming right up? That's a lovely expression meaning, it's on the way, or I'll bring it soon. You'll hear it often in restaurants or cafes. While we sipped our drinks, I realized something simple but powerful. Learning English is like driving in a busy city. You might make wrong turns, feel nervous, or even stop for a while. But every move teaches you something new. I looked at Mia and said, next time, I'll drive like a pro. She raised her cup and said, and I'll give better directions.
The next morning, I woke up early and decided to practice driving again. The sun was soft and the city was still waking up. Birds were singing and the streets looked calm. I grabbed my car keys, took a deep breath, and whispered, let's do this. This time, I wanted to drive alone. I wanted to feel confident, independent, and focused. I started the car slowly and said aloud, okay, make a left at the corner. Talking to myself in English helped me remember phrases and directions. You can try that too. Speak English out loud, even when you're alone. It helps your brain think in English naturally. As I drove through the quiet streets, I practiced useful phrases. Go straight ahead. Turn right at the next traffic light. Watch out for pedestrians. Keep going. Repeating them made me feel more fluent. Learning English is not just about studying, it's about using it in real situations. When I reached the main road, I saw a sign that said, detour ahead. I smiled and said, okay, time for a challenge. A detour means a different route, usually because the main road is closed. I remembered how to use this word. We had to take a detour because of construction. It's a common word in travel and driving situations. As I followed the new road, a delivery truck suddenly stopped in front of me. Oh no, I said. Move, move. Then I laughed, realizing how easy it is to lose patience when driving. But instead of getting upset, I took the moment as a language lesson. In English, when something goes wrong, you can use soft expressions like, oh no, come on, or seriously. They sound natural and keep your tone friendly. After a few minutes, the truck moved. I continued driving and noticed a beautiful park to my right. I decided to cut through the park road to save time. That phrase again, cut through. It's short, simple, and useful. You can use it not only for roads, but for life. I cut through the crowd to reach my friend. The park was peaceful. People were jogging and an old couple was feeding pigeons. I slowed down and said softly, what a lovely morning. Saying kind or positive things to yourself builds confidence, both in language and in life. I passed a sign that said, "School zone, slow down." It reminded me how English signs can teach you real, practical words. When you drive, pay attention to signs. They're short English lessons everywhere you go. As I stopped at the red light, I practiced small talk in my head. "Excuse me, where is the nearest gas station? Could you tell me how to get to the library?" These questions are polite and useful anywhere in the world. The light turned green. I smiled and said, "Let's go." Driving alone had taught me more English than any grammar book could. Sometimes learning comes from life itself, if you listen closely enough. It was Sunday morning, and the city felt alive again. I had promised to pick up my cousin, Leo, from the train station. He was visiting for the first time, and I wanted to impress him with my driving skills. I got into my car, turned on the radio, and said, "All right, let's make this ride smooth." The roads were busy, but not chaotic. I checked the GPS, and it said, "In 400 meters, make a right." That voice felt like a calm teacher guiding me. I thought, this is how English should be learned, step by step, clearly and calmly. When I arrived near the station, I couldn't find a parking spot. Leo called and said, "I'm standing near the main gate." I said, "Okay, stay there. I'll make a U-turn and come back." A U-turn means turning the car completely around to go in the opposite direction. It's an easy word, but very useful in travel conversations. As I turned, a driver behind me honked impatiently. I looked in the mirror and said softly, "Relax, man, don't have a fit." That phrase, "have a fit," always makes me smile. It means getting angry for small things. You can say, "My teacher had a fit when I forgot my homework," or "Dad had a fit when I broke the window." It's a fun, natural phrase to use. Finally, I parked, and Leo jumped in. "Hey," he said, smiling, "I can't believe you're driving now." I laughed and said, "Yeah, just trying not to crash." He laughed louder and said, "Well, don't speed up too much." Speed up means to drive faster, or even to move faster in general. For example, we need to speed up our work if we want to finish on time. We started driving toward the old museum. I said, "Let's take a side street." The freeway is usually packed at this hour. Packed means full or crowded. You can say, "The bus was packed this morning," or "The restaurant is always packed on weekends." It's a very common word in real life. Leo opened the window and said, "Wow, this city is so colorful." I nodded. "Yeah, every street feels alive." I slowed down to show him a market full of fruit stands. People were selling apples, oranges, and flowers. The smell of coffee filled the air. I said, "Let's stop here for a minute." We parked near a small cafe. Inside, an old man greeted us warmly. "Good morning, gentlemen. What can I get you?" I said, "2 cappuccinos, please." He smiled and said, "Coming right up." That's a common phrase meaning "I'll bring it to you soon." While we waited, Leo said, "You seem calm, even when driving in traffic." I laughed and said, "Not always, but I've learned one thing. Staying calm keeps you safe and helps you learn faster. Whether it's driving or speaking English, rushing never helps." We finished our coffee and got back in the car. I said, "Ready for an adventure?" Leo grinned. "Always." The car started moving again, and I felt proud, not just of my driving, but of how English was becoming a part of my everyday life.
The afternoon sun was bright, and traffic was beginning to grow heavier. Leo and I were driving toward the river park. The air was filled with the sound of car horns, music, and laughter from nearby cafes. I smiled and said, "This city never sleeps, does it?" Leo laughed. "Nope, and neither do its drivers." We stopped at a red light. A group of children crossed the street, waving happily at the cars. "That's a good reminder," I said. "Always slow down near crossings." The phrase "slow down" is more than just for driving. It's a life lesson. When you feel stressed or tired, tell yourself to slow down. It helps you think clearly. The light turned green and we continued driving. Suddenly, Leo pointed and said, "Let's take that road. It looks faster." I shook my head. No, that's a one-way street. A one-way street means cars can only move in one direction. It's an important phrase to remember when traveling abroad. If you drive the wrong way, people will shout, "Hey, wrong way!" A few minutes later, we reached a traffic jam. Cars were packed tightly together, not moving. I sighed. Oh no, the road is completely packed. Leo said, "Why don't we take a shortcut?" That word, shortcut, is one of my favorites. It means a quicker or easier way to get somewhere. You can say, "Let's take a shortcut through the park." Or even, "There's no shortcut to success." I checked the GPS. Okay, we can cut through Maple Street. It connects directly to the park. Cut through is another natural English phrase. It means to pass through a place to reach your destination faster. I turned the wheel and followed the new path. As soon as we entered Maple Street, everything became quiet. Tall trees lined both sides of the road, the air felt cooler, and birds sang softly. "Wow," Leo said, "this shortcut feels like a different world." I nodded. Sometimes taking a smaller road gives you the best view. A few minutes later, we saw a car in front of us moving slowly. I said, "Step on it, man." Leo laughed. "You sound like a movie driver." Step on it means to go faster, and people use it jokingly too. For example, the movie starts in 10 minutes, step on it. We finally reached the river park. The water sparkled under the sun, and people were walking, jogging, and playing music. We parked the car near a bench and got out. Leo stretched and said, "That was quite a ride." I looked at the car and smiled. You know, driving teaches more than just directions. It teaches patience, focus, and communication. The same skills make you better at speaking English too. We sat quietly for a while, watching the sunset. The sound of the river mixed with the laughter of children nearby. I realized that learning isn't always about books or lessons. Sometimes life itself gives you the best classroom, one filled with movement, mistakes, and beautiful moments. The next day, I decided to go for a peaceful drive alone again. The morning air was cool and a soft fog covered the streets. I turned on some gentle music and whispered, "Let's make today calm and easy." As I drove down the road, I noticed a man standing at the corner looking confused. I slowed down and rolled down the window. "Excuse me," he said politely, "could you tell me how to get to Oak Street?" I smiled and said, "Sure. Go straight for 2 blocks, then make a right. You'll see a bakery on the corner. That's Oak Street." He thanked me and said, "Your directions were clear. Thank you so much." I waved and replied, "No problem. Happy to help." That little moment reminded me how often we use simple direction phrases in daily life. Expressions like "go straight," "make a left," "turn right at the corner," and "it's on your left" are small but powerful. They help you sound natural and confident. I continued driving and thought about how giving directions also teaches you about politeness. In English, we often start with "excuse me," or "could you tell me how to get to," instead of just saying, "where is it?" For example, "Excuse me, could you tell me how to get to the post office?" sounds much more polite and friendly. A few minutes later, I reached a traffic light. A man in the car beside me looked frustrated, tapping the steering wheel impatiently. I smiled and said softly, "No need to have a fit, my friend," laughing. That phrase always makes me chuckle. It means getting angry or overreacting to something small. You can use it humorously when someone loses patience. The light turned green and I drove forward. Soon I saw a sign that said, "Road closed, take detour." I sighed but smiled. Well, life always gives us detours, I said to myself. A detour means a different route you must take when the main one is blocked. It's also a nice metaphor for life. When something doesn't go your way, don't stop. Just take another path. The detour led me through a quiet neighborhood filled with gardens and children playing. I slowed down, enjoying the peaceful view. An elderly lady waved at me as she watered her flowers. I waved back and said, "What a beautiful morning." At that moment, I realized something simple yet powerful. Driving can teach us kindness. When you drive, you share the road with others. You learn patience, respect, and timing.
The same skills you need when communicating in English. As I reached the end of the street, I saw a clear blue sky opening above me. The detour had brought me to a lovely park I'd never seen before. I parked, got out, and smiled. Sometimes the wrong road leads you to the right place, I whispered.
The sun was shining bright, and I felt like going for a short afternoon drive. I turned the engine on, put on my sunglasses, and said, "Let's see where the road takes me today." There's something magical about driving with no destination. It makes you feel free. As I drove through the city, I noticed a young couple at a corner looking at their phones. They seemed lost. I stopped and asked, "Hey, do you need help?" The woman smiled in relief. "Yes, we're trying to find Greenfield Market. The GPS isn't working." I said, "No worries. Go straight for 3 blocks, then make a left at the second traffic light. You'll see it right next to the bookstore." They thanked me warmly. The man said, "Wow, your English is clear and easy to understand." That made me feel proud. Giving directions is one of the best ways to practice clear English. You have to be short, polite, and direct. You can say, "Go straight ahead, turn left at the corner, it's on your right," or "You can't miss it." These are small phrases, but they make your speech sound fluent. I continued driving and started thinking about how important confidence is when you speak. Many learners hesitate, worried about making mistakes, but mistakes are normal. Just like in driving, you might take a wrong turn, but you can always correct it. In fact, when you make a language mistake, it helps you learn faster. Suddenly, I heard a car horn behind me. A driver was shouting, "Move, move!" I looked at the traffic light and realized it had turned green. "Oops, my bad," I said, laughing. That phrase, "my bad," is an informal and friendly way to say, "I made a mistake." You can use it anytime. For example, "I forgot your book, my bad." After a few minutes, the road ahead got busy. Cars were packed closely together, moving slowly. I sighed and said, "This road is completely packed." That word, packed, means very full or crowded. It's not only for traffic. You can say, "The concert was packed," or "The train is packed during rush hour." As traffic crawled forward, I saw a small side street on my right. "Let's take a shortcut," I said to myself. Shortcut, one of my favorite English words, means a faster or easier way to reach your destination. In life, there are shortcuts too, but not all of them are good. Sometimes the longer road gives you more lessons. The side street was calm and full of small shops. I slowed down, opened the window, and smelled fresh bread from a bakery. I parked and walked inside. The baker greeted me, "Good afternoon. How are you today?" I smiled and said, "I'm great, and your shop smells amazing." He laughed and said, "Fresh bread just out of the oven." I bought a loaf, thanked him, and went back to the car. That small stop reminded me that every journey, no matter how short, can teach us something new about life, about people, and about language. That evening, I decided to take a drive along the river road. The sunset painted the sky in soft gold and orange, and the cool wind brushed gently through the car window. It was one of those peaceful moments that make you forget time. As I drove, I played some slow music and whispered, "This is perfect." The road was quiet, and the sound of water beside me was calming. But peace doesn't always last long when you're driving. Suddenly, a group of cyclists appeared ahead. I quickly slowed down and said, "Whoa, watch out." Then I smiled and added softly, "Always look out for others." That's a good reminder. In English, watch out or look out means to be careful or to pay attention to something that might be dangerous. For example, "Watch out for that dog," or "Look out, the car's coming." These are short, natural phrases that can save you from trouble, on the road and in life. After the cyclists passed, I relaxed again and looked at the sky.
The city lights were beginning to sparkle. I thought about how driving teaches you timing and patience, the same things you need when learning English. You can't rush progress. You have to keep moving at your own speed. At the next traffic light, a young boy was selling flowers. I opened my window and bought a small bunch. "Thank you, sir," he said cheerfully. His smile was full of hope. I said, "Keep working hard, young man. Every step counts." Then I placed the flowers on the dashboard. As I continued driving, I noticed a sign that said, "Bridge closed, detour ahead." I sighed, but laughed. "Another detour," I said to myself. A detour means an alternate way, a different path you take when your main road is blocked. But in life, detours often lead to new discoveries. Sometimes what looks like an obstacle becomes an opportunity. I followed the detour and found myself in a part of town I'd never seen before. Narrow streets, glowing cafes, and people sitting outside, laughing and eating dinner. I rolled the window down and heard the sound of live music coming from a small restaurant. It was beautiful. I parked the car and stepped out. A man playing guitar smiled and said, "Evening, friend. Want to listen?" I nodded and sat nearby. The music was soft and full of soul. I didn't understand every word of the song, but I felt it deeply. That's how language works. Sometimes you feel it before you fully understand it. When the song ended, I thanked the musician. He said, "You're welcome. Drive safe tonight." I smiled, got back into the car, and looked at the flowers glowing softly under the streetlights. I whispered, "Every road has a lesson, and every turn brings something new." The next morning, the sky was bright and clear. I decided to take a long drive outside the city to breathe some fresh air. I filled up the tank, checked the mirrors, and said, "Let's go on a little adventure today." The highway was smooth, and the sound of the engine mixed beautifully with the wind. After a few minutes, I saw a sign that said, "Scenic route ahead." That means a road with beautiful views. I smiled and thought, "Perfect, let's take it." In English, the word scenic means something that looks beautiful or picturesque, like a scenic view or a scenic drive. As I drove along the scenic road, green hills stretched far into the distance. I saw small houses, farms, and cows grazing peacefully. Everything looked calm, like a painting. I slowed down a little and said, "Sometimes slowing down helps you see beauty you miss when you rush." While driving, I practiced some phrases aloud. Go straight for 5 miles. Turn left at the sign. Take the first exit. Speaking English while doing something helps your memory stay active. The more you use phrases in real life, the easier they become a part of your speech. After a while, I reached a small village. A man was standing near his car with the hood open. I stopped and asked, "Everything okay?" He looked worried and said, "I think my car broke down. The engine won't start." I said, "Don't worry, I can give you a ride to the next gas station." He smiled with relief and got in. As we drove, he said, "You're a kind person. Not many people stop these days." I laughed softly and replied, "Helping others makes the road feel lighter." We started talking and he said he was learning English too. He asked, "What's the best way to learn faster?" I told him, "The best way is to connect English to your daily life. Use English when you cook, when you drive, or when you think. Speak it in your mind." He nodded thoughtfully. "That's a good idea. I always thought learning was only from books." I smiled. Books help, but life teaches faster. Every road sign, every conversation, they all add words to your memory. Soon, we reached a small village. A man was standing near his car with the hood open. I stopped and asked, "Everything okay?" He looked worried and said, "I think my car broke down. The engine won't start." I said, "Don't worry, I can give you a ride to the next gas station." He smiled with relief and got in.
As we drove, he said, "You're a kind person. Not many people stop these days." I laughed softly and replied, "Helping others makes the road feel lighter." We started talking and he said he was learning English too. He asked, "What's the best way to learn faster?" I told him, "The best way is to connect English to your daily life. Use English when you cook, when you drive, or when you think. Speak it in your mind." He nodded thoughtfully. "That's a good idea. I always thought learning was only from books." I smiled. "Books help, but life teaches faster. Every road sign, every conversation, they all add words to your memory." Soon, we reached the gas station. He thanked me and said, "You really saved my day." I replied, "No problem. Take care and drive safe." He waved as I left, and I felt a quiet happiness in my heart. Helping others always makes the day better. Driving alone again, I thought about how languages connect people. Even two strangers on a road can share kindness through words. English is not just about grammar, it's about connection. As the sun began to rise higher, I turned on the radio. A calm voice said, "Keep your eyes on the road and your mind on the journey." I smiled and whispered, "That's good advice for driving and for life." It was a quiet Sunday evening when I decided to take one last drive before the week began. The sky was soft pink and the streets glowed under the golden light. I started the engine and said to myself, "Let's enjoy the silence before Monday." As I drove, I noticed how calm the roads were. There was almost no traffic, just a few cars moving slowly. I rolled down the window and felt the cool breeze on my face. The air smelled like rain, even though the sky was clear. I turned on some light jazz music and whispered, "This is peace." A few minutes later, I stopped at a red light. A police officer was standing nearby directing traffic because the lights were flickering. I smiled and said quietly, "That's what we call real multitasking." The light turned green and the officer waved his hand for me to move. I said, "Thank you." He nodded and smiled. Simple politeness, thank you, please, sorry, are small words that carry big meaning in English. They make you sound kind and respectful wherever you go. As I continued down the road, a car suddenly pulled out in front of me without signaling. I hit the brake and said, "Whoa, are you nuts?" Then I laughed. That expression, "Are you nuts?" means, "Are you crazy?" or "What are you thinking?" It's often used when someone does something silly or surprising. You can also say, "Are you out of your mind?" or "That's crazy." I turned onto a quieter street and slowed down. The city lights reflected on the wet road, creating a mirror of colors. I thought about how driving feels a lot like life, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, full of surprises, and always teaching you something new. I passed a bakery that was closing for the night. The baker was sweeping the floor. I parked for a moment and walked in. "Hi," I said. "Are you still open?" He smiled and replied, "Just about to close, but I can give you some fresh bread." I bought a loaf and thanked him. The smell filled the car as soon as I got back in. As I drove home, I repeated some useful phrases aloud. Take a right turn, slow down, cut through the next street, make a U-turn. Saying them softly helped me remember their rhythm. English has its own music. If you listen carefully, you'll hear it in every sentence. When I reached my street, I parked under a tree. The night was quiet. I looked up at the stars and thought, learning English is like driving. You get better every mile. You don't have to rush. You just have to keep moving forward. I turned off the car, took a deep breath, and smiled. The day had taught me patience, kindness, and a few new words. And that's what every good journey should do.
The next morning started with soft rain tapping against my window. I looked outside and saw the streets shining with tiny puddles. It felt like a good day to drive. Not far, just to enjoy the rhythm of the rain. I grabbed my keys, put on a light jacket, and said, "Let's take a rainy drive today." The city looked beautiful, calm, and fresh.
The sound of the wipers brushing across the windshield was almost like music. I turned on the headlights and moved slowly. When it rains, you always need to slow down. That phrase means to reduce your speed or take things easy. It's not just for driving, it's also great life advice. At the first intersection, I saw a man standing under an umbrella. He looked unsure of where to go. I rolled down my window and asked, "Do you need help?" He smiled shyly and said, "Yes, I'm looking for Pine Street." I said, "No problem. Go straight for 2 blocks, then make a left. You'll see a bakery on the corner. That's Pine Street." He thanked me and said, "You give clear directions. I wish everyone spoke English like that." I laughed softly and said, "It's all about using short and simple phrases. The shorter the sentence, the clearer the message." As I continued driving, the rain grew heavier. The roads glistened and traffic began to slow. I noticed some drivers were impatient. Horns honked and one driver shouted something from his window. I smiled and whispered, "No need to have a fit, my friend." That phrase always reminds me how staying calm is the best choice, both in driving and in life. Soon I reached a bridge, but a bright orange sign said, "Bridge closed, take detour." I sighed, but laughed again. Detours always seem to find me, so I followed the new route. The road wound through quiet neighborhoods where kids were splashing in puddles and people waved from their porches. It was slower, but somehow better. As I turned a corner, I saw a cafe with fogged windows and a small sign that said, "Warm coffee, slow music." I couldn't resist. I parked, walked in, and was greeted by the smell of fresh coffee and cinnamon. A woman behind the counter said, "Good morning. What can I get you?" I smiled and said, "A cappuccino, please." She nodded and replied, "Coming right up." I loved how naturally that phrase fit any service situation. It's warm, polite, and friendly. I sat by the window, sipping my coffee and watching the rain fall. The world outside looked peaceful. People hurried by under umbrellas, cars splashed gently through the puddles, and soft music played in the background. I thought, this is what learning English should feel like: slow, calm, and real. After finishing my drink, I thanked the barista and stepped back into the cool air. The rain had stopped, and the sun peeked shyly through the clouds. The streets sparkled like glass. I took a deep breath and said, "Even detours have beauty." The next morning was bright and peaceful, a perfect morning to take one final ride through the city. I started my car, played some soft background music, and said to myself, let's enjoy the journey. No rush, no stress. As I drove down the main street, I noticed how the city looked fresh after yesterday's rain. The air was clean, trees glowed green, and people were smiling again. It felt like everything had slowed down just a little. Sometimes slowing down lets you see life more clearly, and that's true for learning English too. At the first intersection, I stopped at a gas station. The young man working there smiled and said, "Good morning. Need a full tank?" I nodded and said, "Yes, please." He began filling the tank and asked, "So where are you headed?" I smiled and replied, "Nowhere special, just driving to think." He laughed and said, "That's the best kind of trip." I agreed. You don't always need a destination. Sometimes the road itself teaches you more than the place you're going. When I paid for the gas, I said, "Keep the change." He smiled gratefully and replied, "Thanks a lot, sir. Drive safe." That phrase, "drive safe," is one of the kindest things people say. It's simple, but full of care. Back in the car, I turned onto a quiet road. Birds flew low and sunlight danced on the windshield. I said softly, "Let's take a side street." That phrase had become part of my life now, just like step on it, cut through, or make a U-turn. Each word wasn't just vocabulary anymore. It was a memory. As I passed through the streets, I saw children riding their bikes and a woman teaching her daughter to cross the road safely. I smiled. Learning, in any form, whether it's English or life, is always about small, consistent steps. A little further ahead, I stopped at a red light. I looked around and realized how far I had come.
not only as a driver, but as a learner. The fear I once had was gone, replaced by calm confidence. And that's what I wanted to share with everyone learning English. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to keep going. When the light turned green, I smiled and whispered, "Let's move forward." The car rolled gently ahead, and I could feel that the road, like life, was opening wide before me. As I reached home, I parked the car and turned off the engine. I sat quietly for a moment, listening to the ticking sound of the cooling engine. It felt like the road had whispered a lesson to me. Every turn teaches something, every mistake is part of the journey, and every mile makes you stronger. I looked up at the bright sky and said softly, "Thank you for the ride, and for the lessons." The next weekend, the weather was warm, and the city felt alive. I decided to take my car and go for a morning drive through the countryside. I packed a bottle of water, some snacks, and whispered, "Let's see where today's road leads." The moment I left the city, everything changed. The air felt fresher, and trees lined both sides of the road like a green tunnel. Birds were singing, and sunlight flashed softly through the leaves. I slowed down and said to myself, "Sometimes peace begins the moment you step away from noise." A few miles ahead, I saw a farmer standing near his truck, looking confused. I stopped and asked, "Everything okay, sir?" He smiled kindly and said, "I'm trying to find a highway entrance, but I think I took a wrong turn." I replied, "No problem. Go straight, then make a right at the next sign. You'll see the freeway entrance after that." He nodded, grateful. "Thank you. My GPS doesn't work here." I laughed. "Don't worry, human directions are better sometimes." We both laughed and he drove off. That small exchange reminded me how giving directions is one of the simplest and kindest ways to connect with people, no matter what language you speak. As I continued my drive, I saw a small sign that read, "Country Market, next left." I made a left turn and followed the dirt road. It led to a cozy market surrounded by fruit stands and handmade crafts. I parked the car and walked around. People were smiling, chatting, and greeting each other with warm hellos. A woman selling honey smiled at me and said, "You're not from around here, are you?" I said, "No, just exploring." She nodded. "Well, you came to the right place." I tried a spoonful of her honey, and it was delicious. "Wow, this tastes amazing," I said. She smiled proudly. "Made right here, pure and fresh." We talked for a few minutes, and I noticed how naturally English worked in small conversations like this. Friendly, simple, and real. Words like "make a left," "go straight," "try this," or "how's your day" sound ordinary, but they build bridges between people. After buying a small jar of honey, I walked back to my car. As I started driving again, I thought about how language and travel are alike. Both help you explore new worlds. Each phrase, like each road, takes you somewhere different. The road home was quiet. I opened the window and let the wind play with my hair. The sky was wide and blue, and for a moment I felt deeply thankful for the journey, the people, and even the mistakes that had made me better. When I reached the city again, I whispered, "Every road teaches you something, and every word has power." The next morning, the sky was covered with soft clouds and the air was cool. I decided to take another short drive before breakfast. Just me, the car, and the open road. I turned the key, smiled, and said, "Let's go find a little peace today." As I left my street, I saw a school bus ahead of me. Children were laughing and waving from the windows. I smiled and waved back. That small moment reminded me of childhood, when every road looked like an adventure waiting to happen. The traffic was light, so I decided to explore a new part of town. My GPS said, "Take the next exit." I turned and found myself on a narrow country road surrounded by tall trees. The leaves rustled softly in the wind and sunlight flickered through them like dancing stars. A few minutes later, I saw a sign that said, "Road work ahead, expect delays." I sighed, but smiled.
Life has its roadwork too. Moments that slow us down, test our patience, and teach us to stay calm. I said quietly, "All right, I'll just slow down and enjoy the ride." While waiting in the line of cars, I noticed the driver in front of me checking his watch and shaking his head. I whispered, "Don't have a fit, my friend." It's a funny phrase, but it always makes sense. It reminds you to breathe and let things happen in their own time. After a few minutes, the construction cleared and the road opened wide again. I pressed the pedal gently and said, "Step on it, but not too much." Step on it means to go faster, but safely. It's a simple and natural phrase you'll hear often in movies or daily life. Soon I reached a small lake. I parked the car, got out, and sat by the water. The surface of the lake was calm, like a mirror reflecting the sky. I took a deep breath and thought, this is what freedom feels like. Sometimes it's not about how far you go, it's about how present you feel where you are. As I sat there, I remembered how many English phrases I had learned just by driving. Make a U-turn, take a side street, cut through, slow down, speed up. Each phrase had a story behind it now, a real-life connection. That's the secret of learning. When words become experiences, you never forget them. A family walked by with a little boy holding a toy car. He smiled at me and said, "Vroom vroom!" I laughed and said, "Nice car you got there, buddy." His mother smiled too and said, "He loves cars." I replied, "So do I. They always take you somewhere new." I looked at the lake one last time before heading back to my car. I whispered, "Thank you, road, for another quiet lesson."
The next day began with the soft light of dawn. The sky was a gentle mix of pink and blue, and the city was just waking up. I sat in my car for a moment before turning on the engine, feeling grateful for the silence. "Every morning is a new road," I whispered, smiling. I started driving through the empty streets, where even the traffic lights seemed to move slowly. It felt like the whole world was breathing quietly. I decided to take a drive toward the old hill road outside town, a peaceful route that curved between trees and little houses. As I drove, I noticed a small cafe at the corner of a quiet intersection. Its sign said, "Open early, fresh coffee." I smiled and parked. Inside, a friendly barista greeted me with, "Good morning, what can I get you?" I said, "Black coffee, please." He replied with a cheerful, "Coming right up." While waiting, I looked out the window and watched a few cars pass by. One driver stopped suddenly at the corner, and another honked behind him. The barista laughed and said, "People are always in a rush." I nodded. Yeah, everyone wants to get somewhere fast, but sometimes slowing down gets you there better. He smiled and said, "You sound like someone who's learned that the hard way." I laughed softly. "Maybe," I said, taking the coffee. Driving and life both teach you to slow down. I got back in the car, sipped my coffee carefully, and whispered, "Let's take a side street today." That phrase had become like a friend, simple, but always leading me to something new. The side street I chose was quiet and full of old houses with colorful doors. A man was sweeping his porch, and two kids were chasing a ball. I waved at them, and they waved back. At the end of the road, there was a small park. I stopped the car and got out to stretch. A woman walking her dog smiled and said, "Beautiful morning, isn't it?" I nodded. Yes, perfect for a peaceful drive. She chuckled, "Just don't speed up too much." I grinned and said, "No worries, I'm taking it slow today." That simple conversation reminded me how easy it is to connect with people through small talk. Words like beautiful morning, take care, or drive safe may sound simple, but they build warmth. In English, connection often begins with kindness, not grammar. As I continued driving, the sun rose higher, shining through the trees, and the road curved gently. I felt completely present,
No hurry, no pressure, just the joy of movement. I thought about how learning English is like driving a familiar road. At first, you make mistakes, take wrong turns, and feel nervous. But over time, you learn to trust yourself and enjoy the journey. The wind through the window felt cool against my face. I turned off the music and let the silence speak. Every day, I whispered, is another chance to take the right turn. It was a bright Saturday morning when I decided to take a drive to the beach. The air was warm, the sky perfectly blue, and the sound of birds filled the air. I grabbed my sunglasses, a bottle of water, and said softly, "Let's take the long road today." The highway stretched ahead, wide and clear. The wind touched my face through the open window, and I felt a rush of freedom. Driving has a strange magic. It clears your thoughts and reminds you that life keeps moving forward. After a half hour, I saw a sign that said, "Seaside Road, next right." I smiled and said, "Make a right here." Saying it felt natural now. Phrases like make a right, take a left, or go straight ahead had become part of my daily language. When you repeat English in real moments, it stays with you. As I got closer to the coast, traffic slowed. Families were heading to the beach, and the road was packed with cars and bicycles. I said to myself, all right, slow down. Everyone's chasing the same view. The word packed, meaning full or crowded, felt alive right there on the road. I switched on the radio, and a cheerful voice said, "Remember, folks, take it easy this weekend. No need to rush." I laughed and said, "Exactly." Those words reminded me how often we forget to enjoy the journey because we're too focused on the destination. After a few minutes, a car behind me honked impatiently. I looked in the mirror and smiled. "Don't have a fit," I whispered, laughing. It's a funny phrase, but it helps you stay calm. Getting angry doesn't move traffic, and it never helps in life either. When I finally reached the beach parking area, I found the last open spot and parked the car. The sound of waves filled the air. I took off my shoes, walked on the soft sand, and looked at the endless blue sea. "This is why the journey is worth it," I said quietly. As I stood there, I noticed a man trying to park his car in a tight space. He looked nervous. I walked over and guided him with simple English. "Turn the wheel left a little. Good. Now go straight. Yes, perfect." He smiled in relief. "Thanks, friend. I almost gave up." I said, "No worries. We all need a little direction sometimes." That moment reminded me how powerful simple English can be. You don't need big words. Kindness and clarity make communication strong. Words like go straight, turn left, slow down, keep going, they sound small but carry big meaning. After walking along the shore for a while, I sat down listening to the ocean. Each wave felt like a quiet lesson. Slow, patient, steady. I thought, learning a language is like the sea. Endless, beautiful, and always moving. When the sun began to set, I stood up, brushed my hands from the sand, and said softly, "Time to head home." I smiled as I walked back to the car, feeling lighter than before, peaceful, calm, and ready for the next journey.
The next morning was quiet and golden. Sunlight streamed through the window, and the sound of distant birds filled the air. I took a deep breath and said softly, "It's a good day for a new road." I grabbed my keys, stepped outside, and smiled at the calm sky above. I decided to drive into the old part of town, a place I hadn't visited in years. The streets there were narrow, filled with small shops, cafes, and the smell of freshly baked bread. As I drove, I spoke to myself in English. Turn left at the bakery, go straight past the park, make a right at the bookshop. It felt natural now, like the language had become part of my driving rhythm. When I stopped at a red light, I saw a young delivery driver beside me. He looked stressed, checking his phone again and again. I rolled down my window and said kindly,
"Are you lost?" He sighed with relief. "A bit, yes. I need to find River Street." I smiled and said, "No problem. Go straight, take the second right, and you'll see the river at the end." He thanked me with a bright smile and said, "You just saved my morning." As the light turned green, I drove forward, thinking how good it feels to help someone with just a few clear words. Giving directions teaches more than language. It teaches patience, care, and the power of kindness. A few minutes later, I saw a sign that said, "Caution, slippery when wet." The road was still a little damp from last night's rain, so I slowed down. "Good advice," I said aloud, "in driving and in life." Sometimes, when things feel uncertain, the best thing you can do is slow down and move carefully. I parked near a small bookstore with a wooden sign that said, "Old words, new stories." The smell of books filled the air as I stepped inside. The owner, an elderly man with gentle eyes, smiled and said, "Welcome. Looking for something special?" I replied, "Maybe just some peace." He laughed softly and said, "Then you're already in the right place." I spent a few minutes walking among the shelves, touching the covers, reading the titles. I picked up a small travel journal and bought it. "For your journeys," the man said as he handed it to me. I smiled. "Exactly." Back in the car, I opened the journal and wrote my first line. "Every road teaches a new word." It felt true. The road wasn't just a way to travel. It was my teacher. Every sign, every stop, every person I met gave me something new to learn. As I drove home, the wind moved softly through the open window, and the sun painted everything in gold. I whispered, "The best lessons come when you're not looking for them." It was a calm afternoon when I decided to take another drive, this time to the countryside hills. The sky was a soft blue, and the air smelled fresh after a light morning rain. I said to myself, "Let's take the long, quiet road today." As I drove out of the city, tall trees replaced tall buildings. Birds flew above, and sunlight touched the wet leaves, making them sparkle. I slowed down, enjoying every sound and every breath. "This," I whispered, "is what peace feels like." After a few miles, I reached a crossroads with no signs. I smiled and said, "Let's make a left. Why not?" Sometimes, choosing a random turn leads to the best experiences, both in travel and in learning. In English, we often use make a left or make a right to give directions. They sound simple, but are very common in daily conversations. The road led me to a small village surrounded by green hills. Children were playing soccer, and an old man was selling fresh fruit by the roadside. I stopped the car, rolled down my window, and said, "How much for the apples?" He smiled and replied, $2 for a bag, my friend." I handed him the money and said, "Thank you, sir. They look delicious." He nodded and said, "Drive safe." That phrase, "drive safe," always feels warm. It's short, caring, and full of meaning. You can say it when someone is leaving instead of just saying goodbye. It's one of those phrases that show kindness without needing many words. I parked my car under a tree and bit into one of the apples. It was crisp and sweet. As I watched the peaceful village life, I thought about how learning English is similar to traveling through new places. At first, everything feels unknown, but step by step, you start to understand more, and it begins to feel like home. A few minutes later, a little boy ran up to my car and asked shyly, "Are you lost?" I smiled and said, "Maybe just exploring." He laughed. "My dad says exploring is the best way to get lost." I laughed too. Your dad is right. That little conversation reminded me that curiosity always leads to growth, in life and in language. As I got ready to leave, I asked the boy, "Which way is the main road?" He pointed and said,
Cut through that street. It's faster. I grinned. Thanks. You just taught me the best English phrase today. Cut through. It means to go through a place to save time, like taking a shortcut. I followed the boy's direction and drove through a narrow path lined with trees and wildflowers. The sunlight peeked through the branches, and the air smelled of rain and earth. I felt deeply connected to the road, the people, and the quiet language of life. When I finally reached the highway again, I whispered, "Every small road brings a big lesson." The next morning, I woke up early, before the city had opened its eyes. The streets were still empty, and the soft glow of sunrise painted the sky with pink and gold. I took a deep breath and thought, today feels like a good day to go somewhere new. I grabbed my keys, stepped into the quiet car, and smiled. Let's see where this road takes me. The city slowly came alive as I drove. Shops were opening, buses were starting their routes, and the smell of fresh bread drifted from bakeries. I turned on the radio, and a cheerful voice said, "Good morning, drivers. Remember to slow down and stay patient." I laughed softly. Perfect advice for the road and for life. At the next intersection, I saw a small sign pointing toward a mountain trail. I hesitated for a moment, then said aloud, "Let's take a side street." That phrase had become my favorite. Taking side streets always led to quiet places and unexpected stories. The narrow road curved through green hills. The morning mist floated above the trees, and I rolled down the window to feel the cool wind. After a while, I saw a farmer walking beside his horse. I stopped and asked, "Excuse me, does this road lead to the mountain viewpoint?" He smiled kindly and said, "Yes, but you must take the shortcut through the orchard. It's faster." I nodded. "Thank you. Shortcut through the orchard. Got it." He waved and said, "Enjoy the view." I followed his advice and cut through a small dirt path that ran between rows of apple trees. The ground was covered with fallen leaves, and sunlight broke through the branches in golden lines. It was beautiful. I whispered, "This is what I call the perfect shortcut." After a few minutes, I reached the top of a hill where the whole valley spread before me. Fields, rivers, and little houses shining under the sun. The sight took my breath away. "Wow," I said softly. "So this is what happens when you trust the road." Sitting there in silence, I thought about how much I had learned just from driving. Not only English words, but lessons about patience, curiosity, and courage. Make a left, make a right. Step on it, slow down, take a shortcut. These phrases weren't just language anymore. They were wisdom in motion. I took out my small journal and wrote, "Sometimes the fastest way to learn something is not by rushing, but by living it. Every road, every word, every mistake, they all lead somewhere worth going." Before leaving, I closed my eyes and listened to the wind whisper through the trees. It felt like the world itself was speaking softly, reminding me that the journey never really ends. It just changes direction. I smiled, started the car, and said quietly, "Let's go find the next road." The following afternoon, the weather was warm and a soft breeze moved gently through the trees. I decided to go for another quiet drive, not to reach a destination, but simply to enjoy the road. I turned the key, heard the soft hum of the engine, and said with a smile, "Let's take it slow today." The streets were calm, sunlight flickered between the buildings, and people walked lazily with coffee cups in hand. I turned onto a quiet street lined with cafes and flower shops. The smell of roses and fresh bread filled the air. "This city," I whispered, "always knows how to surprise me." At a small intersection, I stopped to let an elderly woman cross the road. She smiled warmly and waved. I waved back and said softly, "Take your time." That phrase, "take your time," is one of the gentlest in English. It means, don't hurry. You can use it at work, in a restaurant, or with friends. It shows patience and care. As I drove on, I saw a group of children learning how to ride bicycles. One fell, but quickly stood up again laughing.
Good spirit, I said. That's how learning works. You fall, you try again, and every time you get stronger. It's true for English too. Don't be afraid of mistakes. They're the road to progress. A few minutes later, a sudden honk from behind pulled me out of my thoughts. The driver behind me shouted, "Move faster!" I looked at the traffic light, still red, and laughed. "Are you nuts?" I said softly. That phrase always helps me stay calm. "Are you nuts?" means, "Are you crazy?" It's often used jokingly when someone acts impatient or silly. When the light turned green, I drove forward slowly. I didn't want to rush. The road curved near a small park where families were sitting on benches. Children were chasing pigeons, and a man was selling ice cream. I parked nearby and bought a cone. The vendor said, "It's melting fast, sir." I smiled and replied, "I'll try to keep up." I sat under a tree, eating my ice cream and watching life move gently. The wind brushed through the leaves and everything felt balanced. Sometimes the best journeys are not about movement, but about stillness. I pulled out my small notebook again and wrote, "Slow down, watch, listen, learn." Every word, like every road, needs patience. After a while, I got back in the car and started driving home. The road was smooth, and the setting sun painted everything gold. I thought about all the useful English I had learned while driving. Step on it, make a left, take a shortcut, slow down, drive safe, go straight. These phrases were more than lessons now. They were part of me. At the last red light before home, I looked at the horizon and said quietly, "No matter where the road ends, the journey of learning never stops." It was Sunday morning, calm and bright. The air was cool and the sky looked soft and endless. I opened my window and heard birds singing. "Perfect day for a morning drive," I said, smiling. I grabbed my keys, stepped outside, and felt the sunshine on my face. The city was still half asleep. I turned on the engine and whispered, "Let's take a quiet route today." As I drove through the nearly empty streets, I felt a sense of peace that words couldn't describe. Every turn, every sound of the tires on the road felt like music. Soon I reached a roundabout. I said aloud, "Go around, take the second exit." Speaking to myself in English had become a habit now. It helped me think faster and sound more natural. If you want to learn English quickly, talk to yourself during your daily activities, while cooking, walking, or even driving. After a few miles, I saw a small car pulled over by the side of the road. A young woman was standing next to it, looking worried. I stopped and rolled down the window. "Everything all right?" I asked. She sighed. "My car won't start and I'm new here. I don't even know where the nearest repair shop is." I smiled gently. "No problem. There's one just ahead. Go straight for about half a mile, then make a left. You'll see a blue sign that says Auto Fix." She looked relieved. "Thank you so much. I didn't expect someone to stop." I said, "We all need directions sometimes, on the road and in life." She laughed softly and said, "That's true." Before I drove away, I added, "Drive safe once it's fixed." She waved and said, "You too." That simple exchange reminded me how kindness travels faster than cars ever could. I kept driving and turned onto a tree-lined road. Golden light poured through the branches, and everything looked beautiful. I whispered, "Let's slow down and enjoy this." Slow down. Such a simple phrase, yet full of wisdom. In driving, it keeps you safe. In life, it keeps you calm. Soon I saw a small coffee stand by the side of the road. I parked and walked over. The man behind the counter smiled warmly. "Good morning. What can I get you?" I said, "A small latte, please." He nodded. "Coming right up." That phrase always feels friendly, a promise that something good is on the way. While waiting, I looked around. People were laughing, sipping coffee, and sharing stories. I thought, this is what makes English alive. It's not just words, it's moments. Every small conversation teaches you more than a grammar rule ever could. I took my coffee, thanked the man, and got back into my car. The first sip was warm and rich, and the road ahead was glowing in golden light. I whispered, "Every drive teaches something new, about language, about people, and about peace." The next day began with a soft sunrise and the gentle sound of morning traffic. I sat in my car for a moment, feeling calm, and said quietly, "Let's take another journey, one without hurry." I started the engine and pulled out onto the street, watching the city wake up. As I drove through the main road, I noticed people rushing, buses honking, cyclists weaving between cars, everyone chasing time. I smiled and whispered, "Slow down, everyone. The world isn't going anywhere." That phrase, "slow down," isn't just for driving. It's a reminder to breathe, to stay present, and to enjoy the ride. After a few blocks, I saw a man standing at the corner looking at a map. I stopped and asked, "Need some help?" He looked up, smiling nervously. "Yes, please. I'm looking for the History Museum." I said, "No problem. Go straight for 3 blocks, then make a right at the traffic light. You'll see a big building with flags in front." His face brightened. "Ah, thank you. My English isn't great." I smiled and said, "It's good enough. You're learning by using it. That's what matters." He laughed softly, waved, and said, "Have a good day." I replied, "You too. Enjoy the museum." As I drove away, I thought about how often people hold back because they're afraid of making mistakes. But mistakes are just small turns on the road, sometimes wrong, but always leading somewhere useful. Every learner needs to take the wheel and keep driving, no matter what. I turned onto a smaller road filled with trees and quiet houses. The sunlight shimmered on the windows, and I played my favorite soft music. It felt like the world had slowed down just for me. I whispered, "This is the real meaning of peace." At the next intersection, a taxi suddenly cut in front of me. I braked gently and said, "Are you nuts?" Then laughed to myself. It's a funny phrase, not angry, just surprised. In English, "Are you nuts?" means, "Are you crazy?" It's often said when someone does something unexpected. A few minutes later, I saw a sign that said, "Rest area 1 mile." I decided to stop there. When I arrived, there was a small shop and a park behind it. I bought a bottle of water and walked towards a bench overlooking the highway. The cars below looked like small toys, moving steadily towards their destinations. I sat quietly and wrote in my notebook, "Every road has lessons. Every mistake has direction. Every stop has meaning." The wind brushed softly across my face, and I closed my eyes for a moment. I thought about all the words I had learned and how each one had its own journey, from books to conversations, from signs to stories. When I got back into the car, I felt lighter, not just as a driver, but as a learner. I whispered, "The more I drive, the more I learn, not only English, but life itself." The sky was golden when I started my evening drive. The air smelled of rain mixed with dust, and the world looked peaceful. I turned on the headlights and whispered, "Let's take the Sunset Road today." The streets shimmered under the orange glow, and every corner felt familiar, yet new. As I drove, I passed a busy intersection where a man was trying to give directions to a tourist. I slowed down, watching with a smile. The man said, "Go straight, then make a right after the bridge." His accent was thick but clear. The tourist nodded, looking grateful. That simple moment reminded me how language connects strangers. Two people who may never meet again, sharing understanding through simple words. A few minutes later, traffic began to slow. I sighed, but then smiled. "No rush," I said. "I'll just take a side street." The phrase, "take a side street," had become like a personal motto for me, a reminder to find calm paths in the middle of chaos. I turned onto a narrow road that led through a quiet neighborhood. There were children playing with chalk on the sidewalks, drawing suns and flowers. An old man was watering his plants, and a woman was sweeping her porch. The simplicity of it all made my heart feel full. "This," I whispered, "is the real world, small, kind, and alive." As I slowed the car, a little boy waved and shouted, "Hi there!" I waved back and said, "Hey there, how's your day?" He smiled shyly and said, "Good, my mom's cooking dinner." I laughed and said, "That's the best part of the day." His mom smiled from the porch, and I nodded politely before driving away. That short exchange reminded me of something important. Learning English is not only about vocabulary or grammar, it's about connection. When you speak with warmth and kindness, people understand you, even if your words aren't perfect. Soon I reached a hill overlooking the city. I parked the car and stepped out. The lights below were starting to twinkle as night approached. I leaned on the hood of the car, feeling the cool breeze. Every sound, the hum of traffic, the chirping of birds, the laughter from far away, blended into something beautiful. I thought about how driving had taught me so much more than I expected. I had learned new words like step on it, cut through, packed, detour, shortcut, but also lessons about patience, direction, and peace. Each phrase had come alive on the road. I opened my notebook and wrote, "You don't need to travel far to find meaning. Sometimes it's waiting at the next turn." As I sat watching the city lights blink one by one, I whispered softly, "Every road ends somewhere, but learning never does." It was my last drive of the week, a peaceful Sunday evening. The air was cool, and the streets were painted with the warm light of the setting sun. I started the car slowly, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "One more drive," I said softly. "One more story from the road." The sky looked like a painting. Pink clouds stretched over golden rooftops. I turned onto the main street, where the city moved gently, not in a rush, not too slow. I thought about all the drives I had taken, every wrong turn, every shortcut, every conversation, and how each one had taught me something about life and language. At the next light, I saw a father teaching his daughter to ride a bicycle. He ran beside her shouting, "Keep going! Don't stop!" She laughed, a little scared but determined. I smiled and whispered, "That's how learning English feels. A bit shaky at first, but full of courage." As I drove farther, the roads became emptier. I rolled down the window and let the evening wind fill the car. I said quietly, "Listen, this is what freedom sounds like." The hum of the engine, the distant music, and the gentle sound of the wind made the moment perfect. I passed by a sign that said, "Scenic route ends." I smiled. Every road ends somewhere, but the memories and lessons stay with you. The same is true for learning. Once you truly connect with the words, they live in you forever. After a few more minutes, I stopped near a lake. The water reflected the last light of the sun. I turned off the engine, stepped out, and stood there silently. The air was cool, and the world felt still. I looked at my reflection and thought, this journey has been more than driving. It's been about growing. I sat on a rock near the water and took out my little notebook. I wrote my final line. Language is not just words. It's the road between hearts. And as I finished the sentence, a peaceful smile spread across my face. When I got back into the car, I whispered one last phrase that had followed me through all these journeys. Drive safe. Those two words carried every lesson I had learned. Patience, kindness, and care. Not just for the road, but for life itself. The city lights began to glow behind me as I drove home slowly. No music this time, only silence, filled with gratitude. The car moved gently through the quiet streets, and I said softly, "Thank you, road," for every word, every turn, and every lesson.
Hurry up. Get in.
I'm in. Let's go.
Okay. Make a left here. No, wait. I meant make a right. Come on, speed up.
Geez, what's the rush?
Don't worry about it. Just drive. Oh no, the light is about to change. Step on it.
Are you nuts? I'm not going to run a red light.
Whatever. Just turn right here. The freeway will be packed at this hour. Let's take a side street. Go on. Get out of our way. Move. Move.
What's your problem? Geez, having a fit is not going to help.
Here, I know a shortcut. Just go down here and we'll cut through Ashburn Heights. Let's go. Let's go. Watch out for that lady.
I'm going as fast as I can.
Yes, we made it. 5:58, just before the library closes.
You're such a geek.
Okay, well, I think that was a lot more clear this time. You know, there was some great language in that dialogue, and I would like to look at how we can put it together.
Putting it together.
Okay, so today on Putting It Together, we have 3 phrases for you.
And we're going to show you how you can use these phrases like a native speaker.
Okay, so all of these phrases we heard in the dialogue. Why don't we start with the first one? Make a.
Make a.
So in the dialogue, they say make a left here.
Yeah, and we can extend this phrase to say make a right.
That would be the equivalent of saying turn left.
Or turn right.
Turn right. And there's one more. Make a U-turn.
Exactly. That means turn the car 180 degrees all the way around.
Make a U-turn.
So make a left, make a right, make a U-turn.
If you're ever in a taxi and you're telling the taxi driver where to go, this is the perfect way. Make a left here, make a right there.
Okay, so let's move to our second phrase, and it is, are you nuts?
Are you nuts?
Are you nuts? So this is a great way of saying,
Are you crazy?
are you insane?
Are you mad?
So when would we use a phrase like this?
If somebody has a bad idea that you don't agree with, you would say, are you crazy or are you nuts?
So Marco, let's stop this podcast right now.
Are you nuts?
Okay, I think that's a good example of how we can use this phrase.
Yes.
So are you nuts? Are you insane? Are you mad?
So let's listen to some examples of are you nuts?
Example 1.
You want to get married now? Are you nuts? You only met her 3 weeks ago.
Example 2. Are you nuts? I'm not going to cheat on the exam. What if I get caught?
So I think that's clear. And now we can move to our third phrase, which is, let's take a side street.
Let's take a side street.
Let's take a side street.
Again, so if you're in a taxi, this is a great way to suggest a route.
Or suggest a direction.
Right.
So we can take this phrase and extend it out with a few more words. We might say, let's take Wilson Avenue.
Right. Or let's take the highway.
So let's take a side street. Let's take Wilson Avenue. Let's take the freeway.
Okay, so now let's take a listen to this dialogue a third time at its normal speed. And now you can understand everything that's in this dialogue.
Hurry up, get in.
I'm in, let's go.
Okay, make a left here. No, wait, I meant make a right. Come on, speed up.
Geez, what's the rush?
Don't worry about it, just drive. Oh no, the light is about to change. Step on it.
Are you nuts? I'm not going to run a red light.
Whatever, just turn right here. The freeway will be packed at this hour. Let's take a side street. Go on. Get out of our way. Move! Move!
What's your problem? Geez, having a fit is not going to help.
Here, I know a shortcut. Just go down here, and we'll cut through Ashburn Heights. Let's go! Let's go! Watch out for that lady.
I'm going as fast as I can.
Yes, we made it. 5:58, just before the library closes.
You're such a geek.
Well, this dialogue is all about driving, right?
Yes.
And in North America, where both of us are from, driving is everything.
Everybody has a car.
When did you get a car?
Well, my car I got when I was like maybe 19.
Really?
But I learned how to drive and I was driving already by the age of 16.
Yeah, that's the thing. In many countries, you have to wait till I think you're 18 to drive. But in North America, everyone has a driver's license by the time they're 16 years old.
Yeah. I guess everything is so far away that you need a car.
Yeah, it's a lot less likely to have subways or trains to travel by in North America.
All right, so now you have all the tools necessary to give directions the next time you're in a car or in a taxi.
Well, everyone, I really hope you enjoyed this lesson. Now, I want to remind you all to come to our English Pod website at englishpod.com, and here you'll find a lot of tools to help you understand our podcasts better. So with that, until next time, this is goodbye.
Bye. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word.
Move faster.
Hurry up.
Turn left.
Make a left.
Drive a lot faster.
Step on it.
Crazy.
Nuts.
Go faster.
Speed up.
Get very angry.
Have a fit.
Quickly go past or through something that blocks your way.
Cut through.
Drive a lot faster.
Step on it.
Full.
Packed. Let's try that faster.
Quickly go past or through something that blocks your way.
Cut through.
Full.
Packed.
Quickly go past or through something that blocks your way.
Cut through.
Drive a lot faster.
Step on it.
Get very angry.
Have a fit.
Full.
Packed.
Get very angry.
Have a fit.
Turn left.
Make a left.
Crazy.
Nuts.
Drive a lot faster.
Step on it.
Full.
Packed.
Turn left.
Make a left.
Crazy.
Nuts.
Move faster.
Hurry up.
Go faster.
Speed up.
Drive a lot faster.
Step on it.
Move faster.
Hurry up.
Crazy.
Nuts. Now say the word and hear it in a sentence. Hurry up. Hurry up. The movie starts in 10 minutes. Step on it. I need to go to the international airport, please. My plane leaves in 30 minutes, so step on it. Nuts. You want to get married now? Are you nuts? You only met her 3 weeks ago. Packed. The stadium is packed. I hope we can find a seat. Have a fit. My boss is going to have a fit if I don't finish this on time. Hurry up. Hurry up. The movie starts in 10 minutes. Step on it. I need to go to the international airport, please. My plane leaves in 30 minutes, so step on it. Nuts. You want to get married now? Are you nuts? You only met her 3 weeks ago. Packed. The stadium is packed. I hope we can find a seat.